Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael. We're excited you joined us for this adventure. Today's special guest is Axel Monsaingeon, all the way from Quebec, but actually currently in Mexico.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me over, guys. I'm glad we could coordinate this. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. So just to let our listeners know, so Axel and I met through a mutual mastermind, and that mastermind has been Raise Masters, and Axel and I have enjoyed the last year so far. But one of the greatest things that I really liked about Axel is that like when Michael and I started our podcast tour and I reached out to him, he's like, I think I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. We can try this out.
It was actually a really fun episode, and I've always enjoyed the energy the two of you have. So I guess the pleasure is mutual.
It is, right? Because that's why I'm so excited to have you on too, because your energy is just amazing. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
But just for our listeners, could you please share a little bit about your background and why you started investing in real estate?
Absolutely. So as you said, my name is Axel. I live in Canada. I actually grew up in the Caribbean and left the island for school purposes for a couple of years. And then I ended up never going back, at least to live, go back on vacation. And I've started my career, so to speak, I guess career after university in supply chain management for a manufacturing company. And I actually really liked it. I originally studied in economics and then did a master's in supply chain. And I liked it because it was real. It was like moving things and it was tangible. And I loved manufacturing because in pulp and paper, like the machine never stops and whatever happens, the show must go on.
Yeah.
And after 5 years over there, I was promoted a few times. I liked it, but I always felt like I could do more. And I had the entrepreneurial itch and so on and so forth. And actually our first child was born. He's now 4. And literally when my wife was at the hospital about to give birth, I was negotiating a job offer that I got to go to one of our suppliers.
Dedication.
Try to juggle.
Yeah.
And it was for a rail company and a big company, and it's, best place to work and stuff like that. I was going into the procurement department. I hated it. I just never been paid that much to do that little work. And people would say this is the dream job. But no, I'm bored. So my wife at the time she had a condo when we moved in together. She moved in with me and we renovated and rented her apartment. And that was like our first real estate investment. And we realized that one, we actually really liked it because it's something that we understood. It's something that we could more or less control. We could force appreciation. We negotiate with people because real estate business is a people business primarily. And so that's kind of how we started. And then we felt like, hey, maybe we should just try to keep buying, let's buy another property, and looked a little bit more into multifamily as the levers are a lot more powerful. And so that's how we started. And we've now been going at it. I've been going at it full time for 3.5 years.
Wow, that's really cool. So all of your investments, are they all in Canada?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and this is a scoop, and I'm not telling anyone other than like I don't know how many hundreds of listeners who will get that. With my two sisters, actually, we are looking at property in Europe. My two sisters live just outside of Paris. And my sister has a good deal, and she was like, "Hey, would you want to join?" I'm like, "Yeah." So that's going to be one off in Europe, but the rest is in Montreal, and actually they're all within a 10-kilometer radius. So it's pretty easy.
Mm.
I like that. What?
I totally screwed up where you're from in the beginning. I said Quebec, and I meant Montreal. So sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Quebec is confusing because it's a city name and it's a province name. So it is confusing. But yeah, I'm in Montreal, and Montreal's an island. And all of our properties are on the island, except one. We actually closed on a new one in end of December, just before Christmas. And this one is just off island. And we're quite happy to start the renovation soon.
What do you hope to get out of real estate investing? What is the long-term goal for you?
It's actually really simple. It's financial freedom. And it's been to build wealth. And I hate to call it like that with the big W, because I always find it sounds like so capitalist, even though, I am. But it's just that it's something that we're essentially building our own business. And it satisfied the entrepreneurial itch, because when you're doing real estate, you're doing every facet, at least until you can delegate. But it's also that it's given me the time to be my own boss and decide. And yeah, sometimes I only go 2 hours a day, and I have no problem with that. So my wife, actually, now we're at a pretty critical point, because my wife is a tax lawyer. She's kept working full time. And actually on Monday, this last week, she gave her resignation. She's going to be coming. I know. You have to, like, I can't even share how happy I am for her, for us, for as a family. And because she's terrific in real estate. She's been extremely good at her job in tax. It's just that, well, you're still working for somebody else and you don't choose your hours. And sometimes doing international tax, she has calls with Australia. So she has to work at like 11 p.m. just to be able to get on a call, I'm like, she's done with it. She's done.
That sounds horrible. Yeah. So let me back up real quick. So you shared 4 years ago, you're on the phone, birth of your child, negotiating a job deal and in procurement. And then like from there, within 4 years, both of you guys have like transitioned out. How did that happen? Like, was it 4 years ago? Was that the turning point where you're like, I need to start making moves now, be more entrepreneurial, take down more deals and things like that? Did you think that whole process through? Could you elaborate a little bit for listeners?
Yeah. So some of it was intended and some of it came out of, I wouldn't say good luck, but like just the way it happened. About 5 years, we've been a lot more methodical about it. And we've been spending time and money in education and learning, like, how does it really work? How are people able to do it? And so the idea was that, over a couple of years, at least I was going to be able to transition. And then I just quit my job. I did for a year, I did do some consulting, which was almost a full-time job, but I had a lot more flexibility. And in that time, I was prospecting, I was listening to podcasts, I was learning, I was surrounding myself, and so on. And so we made a few good acquisitions that we've, acquisition, renovation, re-rented, refinanced, rinse and repeat, like what most of us do. It's just that we've diversified a little bit between some small multifamily and then one condo, some short-term rental that pays well every month. So we've been able to create a little bit of an income. We've also been more methodical about our other investments and trying to generate a little bit more monthly income, basically, because we still have our bills to pay, with the goal to build equity. And a lot of people really see this as like, oh, cash flow is king and you need to make as much money now and stuff like that. We've kind of taken a different approach where we're like, not really. Like, we need to pay our bills. We have 2 kids and all that, but like, we want to keep rolling it forward for the future. And so we've been building equity. And, people count in doors, people count in net asset under management and stuff like that. We don't have that many doors at all. It's just that we have a fair amount of capital that we've been able to roll forward and now to start to live off of it. And with the last 2 projects that we've done, we've taken a little bit of money on the refi, obviously, but it's also that it really showed us like how scalable it is. And so I'm so thrilled that my wife is coming on board because she's a prospecting machine. And
yay.
Yeah. And the second to the last deal that we bought, she found it, she negotiated and stuff. It's a gold mine. And I'm like, all you need to do is 2 a year. 2 a year, we're fine. So that's where we're going to go.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, like, it sounds like Susie and I's goal, right, is to collect enough active income now so we can buy larger and larger deals and with less partners. We do enjoy partners and stuff like that, but once you can own a majority of the deal, like you said, you only need like 1 or 2 a year, if maybe even 1 if it's a large enough deal, right? Yeah. And just support our income and our travels and things like that. Yeah, that's cool. Another thing I want to point out is you said focusing on education and learning. I think that's a huge piece as well. Like, and we were chatting offline before this as well. Like, you have some money set aside every year, it sounds like, for specific education and learning experiences. Like, how, obviously it's very important. Would you shed some light on like how you decide like how much money you're going to spend? And like, because that's a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to spend, $10,000 on a mastermind, but they don't realize that's going to make them millions of dollars in the future. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an excellent point. Before starting to really spend on it, I've listened to hundreds of hours of Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
There you go. Like
it.
Hundreds of, on our first deal, I did some of the renovation myself, which was a terrible idea, but I brought my phone and I would bring a little speaker. And as I was doing work, I literally binged on Bigger Pockets. And after that, I added a little bit of diversity. So that is free and that is accessible to absolutely everyone. So for all the listeners, you don't want to spend money, that's fine. There's hundreds of good podcasts that you can learn from. And then after that, locally in Montreal, we have a really good real estate investors club. And actually remind me, because I'll finish with that. And they do a $5,000 coaching program over a 10-month period. And I was like, that sounds good. And it's 1 day a month, a full day. The content is really good, but it's also the people you meet, obviously, right? Your network and so on. And the thing is that it's 5K. And I used to think like, oh, 5K. Like all you need to do is one deal where for sure you'll save 5K and you've paid for that forever.
Yeah.
One deal. And then there's the coaching. And then there's like an advanced coaching, which was another 5K. And I was like, well, I guess I'll do this one too, because the first one was so good. And kept going and kept going. And so that's the investment part. And like a lot of other things in life, it's what you make of it. Some people go there and I don't think they ever make a single purchase offer. Then it was a waste of 5K. But if you make even a couple offers and you close one deal in your negotiation, you will pay for it 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two, with that community, there's like monthly events. So obviously in the last 2 years, it's been online and we've had online events with 300 people, which has been really good because in terms of support and because it's a fairly close-knit community, people always help each other. And I'm amazed by how much help, share contact. Hey, I'm in this situation. What would you do? Oh, this is what I've done. Okay. We're not reinventing the wheel here. Everyone's done it before. We just need to be better at finding where or how did other people do it. And you may be wondering now, like, it looks like I'm in a hotel room with 2 gorgeous beds. Yeah. I'm not at home. I'm actually, our bedroom doesn't look like that. We don't have 2 beds. So I'm actually in Mexico. Every year, except last year, the Real Estate Investors Club organizes a 1-week trip where it's training and networking. And so here we are in a pretty nice resort with 120 real estate investors. We've been here since yesterday and it's already like the explosion because we do training in the morning and in the afternoon we go to the pool and
I like it.
By the beach. And it's like the best way to like learn and share contacts and network and stuff like that. So it's been really, really good. But all that to close the loop of you got to invest in yourself. And the advice I give is you want to go and make your first investment. Okay. Here, a small multifamily pretty much starts at about 500,000. You want to go buy a $500,000 property, but you won't spend 5K for you to learn what to do. It makes no sense. So before you make any acquisition, invest in yourself.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, but there's always that like disconnect of investing in ourselves. I don't know who, what, when, where, or why, but it's just always there. But the other thing that's there is like that instant gratification, like, oh, well, I'll get the deal. And then you want everything that comes then after that. So I love the education part, just because even as you two have mentioned, like you continue to learn and I mean, essentially build wealth within your knowledge, right? It just keeps giving and giving and giving. Cause even like once you get a little snippet of education, the same topics that you were learning about, you even listen or learn about them differently now. Cause you're like, oh, well, I know this new bit. And so this all makes way more sense now. And then when you learn another bit, it's like, oh, this all makes way more sense now. It just keeps compounding. And I love that. And with real estate too, if the whole point of it is like compounding, just see how there's so many parallels to it all. Like it all needs to flow and mesh together for it to work.
Yeah. And it gets easier and easier. The more you invest in yourself, the more you learn, the more tools you add to your tool belt. And then whenever a problem arises, you just know which tool to use. And it might just be a stupid analogy, but I literally find it relevant.
Yeah.
And you asked it earlier, Michael, on how I decide like how much to spend every year. It's usually like 10, 15K, something like that. But it's not even really about the price. It's about, okay, if I do this, what do I think I'll be able to get out of it?
Right.
What will be my ROI? And I don't mean the return on impact. I mean investment in this case. And it's just like Raise Master. Would you spend a certain amount to learn how to raise funds, knowing that after that you can perfect your recipe to potentially raise millions of dollars? Yeah, that's a worthy investment. Simple as that.
Yeah, could agree with you more. And I like what you also said there is you're developing different tools for your toolbox. In your case, like this whole Montreal Real Estate Investor Network is like a network of people too, right? So like, not only are you getting information, but you're also building your network. And then you have somebody to call if you're like, hey, I have this problem. Hey, I know somebody who can deal with that. That's really cool too. So like, it's good to invest in education, not only learning, but also expanding your network at the same time for sure.
Hugely.
And I was just going to say something real quick that we mentioned back in episode 50, where you talked about a reflection in that episode. And a lot of people have a hard time reflecting back and finding out, what they actually need to learn in order to move forward, right? Because like they're all living in, like Susie was saying, like living in the now, like what's the next thing? I'm going to get this deal. I'm going to do that or whatever. When you actually need to take a step back, reflect on your weak spots and where you need to grow and invest in education products that help you fill those voids or those gaps.
And going in that direction, that's an exercise that we do with my wife, and I'm sure you guys do it too at the beginning of the year, is like our yearly objectives. And it's to sit down to say, okay, well, what did we accomplish last year versus the goals that we actually intended? What do we want to set for this year? And what is it that I need to invest in, i.e. in myself, and to learn in order to be able to do that? And so it's really just creating a strategy, and it's not rocket science. If you know that my weakness sometimes is on the financing, okay, well, I'm going to go purposely learn more about financing.
I do have a question about your small multis.
Mm-hmm.
Do you self-manage or do you outsource the property management company?
So I used to self-manage and now I outsource because throughout the optimization process, I find there's value in doing some of it yourself. Obviously, all the negotiation with the tenants, and also, as we're renovating some units, sometimes in the coordination to have people come and work and stuff, I still want to keep that relationship with them. But once they're stabilized, I'm happy to kind of give it to a management company to do it, because there's, let's say honestly, like no value add.
Yeah. What did something happen for you to finally get to that point?
Yeah. At the beginning, I was all eager, and my tenants are my clients. I take them very seriously, and I do my best to always treat them like I would my sister, my aunt, and my grandmother. And I literally mean that. But there's also a reality is that we have a fairly busy life. We have kids and stuff like that. And I don't particularly want to take the 10 calls anymore. It depends on what it is. Since I've been here, I already had one. Someone was complaining there's a mice in between. Okay, we'll take care of it. We'll see what needs to be done, but I'll let a professional deal with it.
No, that totally makes sense. I just didn't know, I guess, if the parallels were the same within the US and with Canada. I mean, obviously anyone can self-manage if they would prefer to. I just didn't know how often it was happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess it's really, what is your time worth? And it's also, what do you really want to do? And we're all in the same boat here, that in order to keep growing and scaling, we add a lot more value by finding, packaging, raising, closing, than doing the second part. So this is where the energy is better spent.
Absolutely. Because then even within that, though, although we just talked about not being super excited to get the next deal, but when we can impact the investors that we bring in or make a better community for the investors, it's a world of a difference. It really is. When you started raising capital, what was that like for you? Were a lot of people super excited? Were a lot of people hesitant? How did that go?
It was scary. It was really scary. And actually, on our first deal, we raised half of the amount that we needed, but it was really easy because it's someone we knew, and it's someone that had already mentioned that she wanted to invest in real estate. So it was a pretty easy sell. As we went further, actually, we did all of our other deals after that all on our own by refinancing, keep rolling, and just being creative. And now we've started to raise capital again. And there are a few things, like psychologically, I find it's hard because if it's my money and I make a mistake, I'll kick my own butt. And I'm fine with that. I'll take full responsibility. But when you use someone else's money, you have that fiduciary responsibility to do it even better than you would just for yourself. And I feel really responsible towards my investor, number one. And then number two, the fear of rejection, the fear that I'm not going to be able to deliver what I think we can do, and all these things. You can budget, you can forecast all you want. Until you do it, you don't really know. So now we're actually in a bigger project. We're in the process of acquiring land to build a 16 units. Nice. It's moving. We've started to raise capital. We have soft commitments. We haven't finalized them yet because we're still in our due diligence and we still have a few things to iron out. And it's been easier and easier because since a little bit we've been investing in building a community, and with the podcast, The Very Real Estate Effect, and also with meetups and people around town. And we keep letting other people know what we're doing, not necessarily trying to raise capital, but just like, here's what we're doing. And a lot of them say after a while and they see it works, they're like, hey, next deal, maybe let me know. I could be interested, and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it's been going. But to be bluntly honest, I still find it scary to take other people's money.
It's okay. I do too.
Yeah. It means we have a conscience.
Yeah.
Right.
It's surprising how many operators out there that don't care. It's like, whatever, next deal. Oh,
Or
the
not
last
even that,
deal
like,
is-
oh, it was a projected return.
yeah, it's
Sorry.
projected. Sorry, whatever. Hopefully we'll get your money back at the end. You're like, what? I don't know how these people operate. And then they're just like closing on more and more deals. I'm like, yeah, for us, like we're like, after we close on so many deals, we're like, okay, we need to take pause, take it back, make sure that we're operating this correctly. Cause it's a lot of work, especially when you're stabilizing an asset. Like we have one asset that's just like, we could not do anything for 6 months and the thing would just keep, it's like ATM machine, just like throwing cash out. Like you can't stop it. But then we have another asset that needs a little bit more love, right? And it keeps me up at night. And
Yeah.
it did. And now it's finally getting to the point of stabilization. But like, man, how much effort that we put into that, like, and what we're getting paid for that right now is not enough. But because we care so much about actually hitting the projected returns that we've told our investors, right?
Mm-hmm. And sorry, I don't know if you've also been through the period where, you're excited and you want to take other people's money, but at the same time, you feel a strong sense of responsibility and you're like, oh, I can't charge fees. I'm already so grateful he's participating because he's enabling me to do this project for myself. And now I'm a lot more of like, yeah, well, that's great that he's participating. It's just that I've switched it around saying, I'm going to do this deal. I'm giving, 3 people the opportunity to come in, but because I'm doing all the work, obviously I have a stake, but it's also, I am going to charge a bit of fees because, we can't be getting the same reward, basically, knowing how much more work I do. And most people totally understand that. And so that's it. And I'm sure you've been through this as well, like the importance of being aligned with your investors of like, I'm going to recap. Okay. This is at least 3 years. Don't come a year from now and tell me you need your money back. I will not be able to give it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then values of, I will treat everyone well. I will not try to arbitrarily kick out tenants, raise the rents just to be able to make you more money. Like I treat people like they're my grandmother.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally agree with that. And I think, Susie and I do a great job of we onboard our investors. Like we tell them that those things, make sure that our values align with their values and vice versa. Right. Additionally, like I just want to hit on the fees thing. So like what we've done, we do take a little bit of fees, right? But because it is a lot of work to close on an asset and stuff like that. And it's a 4-month process and you're managing the asset for 3, 5, 7, 10 years. Right. But what we do is like, we write it in that like, once we hit the returns plus like another 5% or so on top of that, then it shifts in our favor a little bit.
Yeah. You have a waterfall.
More money. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, so that gives us motivation to, crush it and then some. So we get paid. Right.
Yeah.
That's something you said this earlier at the beginning, how like now that your wife's in it, like you had told her like we only need 2 deals a year. And that actually really stuck out to me, even just having this whole entire conversation about what it is to even be like a decent operator, how it is to treat residents, and how Michael had just said that like we don't need to take on a ton of deals. I think that when you can honestly reflect and be like, this is what we need, like to 1, be good operators, and 2, just to live a great, decent life. Like this is all that we have to put in. And I think that's big because it's not that consistency for like more, because once you get to that more, that's when you do underwrite deals that you maybe like tweak the numbers a little bit because you're thinking in your head like, oh, I want more. A lot of other people are in jeopardy when you have the mindset of more. But I just liked that because, 2 to some people might not sound like a lot, but operating 2 assets that really get all your attention and love, like compounding year to year, is a pretty big deal. Like last year I had joined this women's group and one individual investor had taken down 18 deals in like a matter of 9 months. And when I finally found out that she was trying to hire out asset managing, I just thought to myself, what is the point? What is the point? Because I know she's now at her like way too high point. If you have to hire out like one of the most important jobs of the deal, right? I mean, to carry out the whole entire business plan. And so I guess to bring it back all together, it was just really refreshing to hear somebody else be like, no, like we can do 2. And that is like exactly what we got into this for, instead of getting to the point where you're like, ooh, dollar signs in your eyes.
Yeah. And you're so right that so many people forget about that, about the primary reason why they started doing this and their why. And just to take like 1 minute, I had met someone at the Real Estate Investors Club who was tired of his job, employees and stress and stuff like that. And he said, I'm going to real estate and I'm going to go invest that way. And I can choose how I spend my time. And then he got really good at it. He grew. And now he's got employees, properties. He's got so much. And I was like, but isn't that why you left? But now you're all stressed out with employees and you almost forgot you don't spend time with your family, which was the primary reason why you did all this in the first place. It's like, I know I got sucked into it. I didn't realize, but we've been successful. It's like, that you chose that. You chose to outgrow or to grow too much. So just never forget why you're doing it. What's your motivator?
Yeah.
Right. Because then what does success actually mean?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't, again, reflect on exactly, okay, this is the number I want to try to get to. And then, this is how many number of units or how many properties I need to get to that number. And then when you get there, okay, just operate them. Because you'll be operating them for years and years and years. And if you come across another deal, then yeah, that's great. But like scaling so fast, it just becomes a business. I know somebody who I think he has like $60,000 a month in payroll that he has to meet. Like how stressful is that? Yeah. Yeah. So anyways.
Yeah. Kudos, but
it's great.
And maybe that fits his why and his values. For us, it's not what we want. We're not looking to have 1,000 units. We just want to live comfortably and spend time with our kids and travel. And that's it. I'm not trying to build an empire.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your own mini empire, just with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Within a 20-kilometer radius.
I like that. I do.
Awesome. Well, Axel, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Before we end the show, we have 4 exploratory questions we ask all of our guests. The first question we have for you is, where is one place you wish to travel to and why?
So it's been a little bit more challenging to travel in the last couple of years.
Especially Canada. Yeah.
Especially to and from Canada. When I was younger, I actually worked on a ship and we had stopped in Patagonia, in Argentina. And that is why we were in Puerto Madryn. It's in the northern part of Argentina. And I've always wanted to go back just because it is absolutely, I was going to say virgin and beautiful. The nature there was just absolutely amazing. And Argentina has always been a country that has been very attractive. And with my wife, we have committed that we will go to Patagonia in the next couple of years.
Yay.
I love it.
I do too.
That sounds awesome.
So the second question is, what is the number one thing on your bucket list and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
Well, actually, we talked about it, is being aligned and not forgetting why we're doing this. It is just to always kind of remain on the X in terms of, yeah, we could try to grow more and we could make more money and stuff. It's like, no, our goal was to be there for our kids. They're young. We have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I take great pleasure in picking them up myself at school and daycare every day. And I don't want to lose that. So I guess to answer the question, it would be I'm leveraging just our reality and why we're doing it and not falling off and falling in the trap of growth.
Love it.
I do too.
That's great. The third question, Axel, is what is one piece of advice for someone who is to start passively investing in real estate?
Learn, invest. No, before you invest is just listen to other people who've done it. Surround yourself. And when I say surround, it could be podcasts. It could be videos on YouTube, like your channel. It could be your local real estate club. It could be meetups. It could be just surround yourself with people who are doing it. None of us here are reinventing the wheel. And it's that and then take action. We all know people who've been wanting to invest passively for years. And then 3 years later, they've never made a single offer. Well, at some point, you also need to take action to reach what you're trying to do. So educate and then do.
Love it.
I do too.
Love it. I like that because a lot of people are just take action. And they're like, oh, and then education comes later. And it's like, I'm a big proponent of that as well. So read as much as you can, listen to as many podcasts as you can, and then smartly take action.
Yeah. So then the fourth and final question is, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
So my dream, if I had unlimited resources, is that there is, I'm going to talk about Canada. We have a housing crisis. We have a quality of dwelling that is pretty low for a number of reasons. And I wish I could control city laws to be able to build a lot more social housing because there was just such a huge need. And I've had tenants that have been in difficult situation, some of them with kids, and I don't wish it to anyone, nor kids. And I wish I could make more of an impact on having the ability to provide more social housing, because it's a basic need. And obviously, like, people want to do this in other parts of the world, other continents, stuff like that. And I greatly admire them, and that's fantastic. I'm going to try to have an impact where I can around me, and that would be one of them. In Canada, we're ranked as one of the worst countries for length of building permits.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, and the city says we need to add 40,000 new dwellings a year. And it's like, yeah, but just to get a building permit to build a 16 unit takes a year. Like, how am I supposed to do this? So they need to connect the two ends here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So before we end the show, Axel, would you mind sharing with our adventurous family how they can find out more about you? And you can share about this real estate investing club as well, if you'd like to.
Absolutely. So they can find out. So my podcast is The Real Estate Effect. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you listen. I also have a little YouTube channel where we put the episodes. For anyone who's listening, who's near Quebec or in Quebec, it's the Real Estate Investors Club. In French, it's CIIQ, C-I-I-Q. And just get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Don't hesitate. Write me a little message and I'll put you in touch with them. It's one of the best investments in education that you can do. There you go. And just to finish, like, real estate can be amazing and have a huge impact on your life. You just need to do it properly. And that comes through a lot of the topics that we just talked about today.
Absolutely. So, and if you reach out to Axel via LinkedIn or whatever, make sure that you say that you heard him on the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor podcast, and he will be sure to make that connection or accept that connection.
Absolutely. And I will, and once they reach out, I will also ask them to leave you a review, because that's important. Because it definitely helps to get good guests, and it helps with the algorithm.
Oh, yes. And thank you for that. But thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure every time we chat. I am so excited that your wife was finally put in her resignation, because I know we've chatted about that before. Yeah. So 10 for 10. So that's super exciting. But yes, Adventures family, please go and check out his podcast. It is actually very educational. It's a lot of fun. I listen to episodes and like majority of the time I'm giggling. So again, just find him, look out, because he is one of the better resources out there. So thank you again for joining us.
And all that information will definitely be in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. So until next time, explore more, adventure awaits.
Woo!